1. The diagram shows an enlarged drawing of the end of the meter rule. It is being used to measure the length of a small feather. What is the length of the feather? We know that there are two scales on the figure. One of them is millimeter, one of them is centimeter. So according to millimeter, we can say that end of the object, it is in 29 and one end is in 10. So the answer will be 90 millimeters. So A is right. Question number 2. A car travels along a straight road. The speed time graph for this journey is shown. During which label part of the journey is the resultant force on the car 0? We know that when resultant force on the car is 0, acceleration will be 0 because sigma f equal to ma. Resultant force equal to ma. When resultant force is 0, acceleration must be 0. So we know that acceleration is rate of change of velocity. So when acceleration is 0, it means delta v will be 0. So it means velocity is constant or speed is constant. Speed equal to constant. That's why a slope of a speed time graph must be 0. So B is right. A large stone is dropped from a bridge into a river. A resistance can be ignored. V-Trot describes the acceleration and the speed of the stone as it falls. We know that when there is no air resistance, no opposing force, so a speed will increase. So we can choose B or D. Now, acceleration of the stone is constant. Why? Because it is gravitational acceleration of the Earth. And you know that it is near the surface of the Earth, it is constant. And it is nearly 10 meters per second square. That's why B will be right. Question number 4. A cup contains hot liquid. Some of the liquid evaporates. What happens to the mass and what happens to the weight of the liquid in the cup? We know that when some of the liquid evaporates, mass will decrease. And according to W equal to mg, g is constant. When mass decrease, weight also decrease. That's why A will be right. Question 5. Below are 4 statements about acceleration. Which statement is not correct? Okay. Circular motion always involves acceleration. It is right. Changing a speed always involves acceleration. It is right. Changing direction always involves acceleration. It is right. Because changing direction in circular motion causes centripetal acceleration, which B is right. Acceleration always involves changing a speed. No, because it is said always. We know that according to part B, changing direction always involves acceleration. That's why A will be wrong. Acceleration involves changing a speed, but not always, because in circular motion, changing direction causes centripetal acceleration. That's why A is wrong in this question. Question 6. In this question, it is mentioned that it is in equilibrium. When it is in equilibrium, we can see, we know that some of the clockwise moment will be equal to some of the anti-clockwise moment. So in every question, when they are talking about balance or equilibrium, you must consider that some of the clockwise moment must be equal to some of the anti-clockwise moment. So according to this, we know that moment is equal to force times perpendicular distance to the pivot. So pivot is here. So for anti-clockwise moment, we have only one force times distance to the pivot. Distance is 20 plus 60. And for clockwise moment, there is only one force, 120, which is weight of the beam times 20. So if you calculate, you can find answer. Answer will be 30 Newton, which A is right. Question 7. An object is acted upon by a 3 Newton force and by 4 Newton force. Each diagram shows the two forces. Which diagram also shows the resultant X of these two forces? Okay, we know that if 3 Newton is in this direction and 4 Newton in the south, then according to parallelogram method, from this point we should draw resultant force. According to parallelogram method, you can choose C. So question 7, C is right. Question 8. The engine of a car produces a driving force of 5,000 Newton on the car. Resistive forces R also act on the car as shown. The car has a mass of 800 kg and an acceleration of 1 meter per square meter. So per square second, sorry, meter per second square. What is the value of R? We know that according to Newton's second law, sigma F equal to ma. Sigma F is resultant force. So one of them is forwarding force, another one is opposing force equal to ma. So forwarding force is 5,000 minus opposing force is called R in this question. Mass is 800 and acceleration is 1. So R will be 4,200 Newton. So question 8, B will be right. Question 9, a stone of mass m is held at rest in water. The stone is released and falls vertically a distance h. The stone reaches a speed v. Some of the original energy of the stone is transferred to the water. As it falls, resistive forces cause the temperature of the water and the stone to increase. Which expression gives the work done against the resistive forces? Okay, suppose this is the earth and you know that potential energy considered on the surface of the earth 0, and this is water. So if object in this height, so height will be h, then according to mechanical energy, which is potential energy plus kinetic energy, we can write potential energy plus kinetic energy. So mechanical energy is equal to potential energy plus kinetic energy. So if we say that in this position we have potential energy because of height, which is mgh. It is said it is at rest, so kinetic energy is 0. Near the earth there is a speed of v, that's why we have kinetic energy, and according to this assumption we can say potential energy will be 0. So now what is work done? We know that work done against resistive force equal to change of mechanical energy. So mechanical energy is 0.1, for example this is 0.1, this is 0.2, minus mechanical energy at 0.2. So at 0.1 we have mgh plus 0, minus in 0.2 we have 1/2 mv square. So this is work done against resistive force. Based on this, B will be right. Question 10. Which energy resources does not derive its energy from the sun? We know that D, C, and B, they get energy from the sun. Only A, which is geothermal, doesn't get energy from the sun. So geothermal energy is created by radioactive decay of material inside the earth. That's why A will be right, because geothermal is not created by or derive energy from the sun. It is created because of radioactive decay inside the earth. Question 11. Some processes are more efficient than others. Which expression gives the efficiency of a process? We know that according to efficiency formula, efficiency is useful energy output divided by total energy input times 100%. That's why B is right. Question 12. A diver underwater uses breathing apparatus at a depth where the pressure is 1.25 times 10 to the power 5 Pascal. A bubble of gas breathed out by the diver has a volume of 20 centimeter cube when it is released. The bubble moves upwards to the surface of the water. At the surface of the water, the atmospheric pressure is 1 times 10 to the power 5 Pascal. The temperature of the water is the same at all points. So, when the temperature of the water is the same at all points, you can use Boyle's law. According to Boyle's law, we can say that P1V1 equal to P2V2. So P1V1 equal to P2V2 in second position. So what is the volume of this bubble when it reaches the surface? So according to this, we can say that P1 at the surface of the earth will be 1 times 10 to the power 5 times V1, which is not given. P2 is 1.25 times 10 to the power 5 times volume, which is 20. So if you calculate, V1 will be 25 centimeter cube. So that's why D will be right. Question 13. The diagram shows a simple mercury barometer. The atmospheric pressure increases. Which distance increases? We know that atmospheric pressure will be distance between X and W. If liquid is mercury, distance between X and W. But in 4 choices, you cannot see X, W. That's why we should choose WY. So WY will be the right answer for this question. Question 14. Which statement describes what happens as ice at 0 degrees Celsius starts to melt to become water? Okay. We know that when ice starts to melt, we have mix of ice and water. That's why temperature is constant. That's why temperature is constant. So B and D will be wrong. Between A and C, we can choose one of them. During melting, energy is absorbed. Energy is absorbed as a latent heat of fusion. As a latent heat of fusion, energy is absorbed. That's why A will be right. Question 15. Smoke particles illuminated by a bright light are seen through a microscope. They move about randomly. What causes this motion? We know that this is definition of Brownian motion. We know that in Brownian motion, smoke particles are hit by air molecules. That's why According to this definition, we can choose B. Collisions between the smoke particles and the molecules of the air. This is right answer for question 15. Question 16. A liquid is at a temperature below its boiling point. The liquid is then heated so that it becomes a gas at a temperature above its boiling point. Vitra correctly compares the liquid with the gas. Based on kinetic theory of matter, average distance between particles and speed of particles are the most between gases, liquid and solid, are the most for gases. Based on this, we can choose D. So question 16, D will be right. Question 17. A beaker of liquid is left on a laboratory bench. There is an electric fan in the laboratory causing a draught over the liquid. The liquid evaporates. Vitra shows two changes that will both cause the liquid to evaporate more quickly. We know that evaporation happens rapidly when the temperature is higher, or surface area of liquid is large, or wind or drought is blowing over the surface of the liquid. Based on these three factors, we can choose D, because change to surface area of the liquid and change to a speed of fan increase evaporation. That's why D will be right. Question 18. Which processes occur in a metal to cause thermal conduction? We know that thermal conduction happens because free electrons move from one part of the metal to the another part of the metal. That's why electron transfer. And we know that proton doesn't move. That's why C will be right. And the last point is that lattice vibration also causes thermal conduction. That's why C will be right. Question 19. A wooden beam is painted part black and part white. The beam absorbs infrared radiation from the sun during the day and loses infrared radiation to the surroundings at night. Which part of the beam heats up more quickly during the day and which part cools down more quickly at night? We know that black objects are good absorbers and good emitters of radiation. That's why A will be right, because black objects are good absorber and good emitters of radiation. That's why A will be right. Question 20. 5 grams of water at 25 degrees Celsius is dropped onto a large block of ice at 0 degrees Celsius. The water cools at 0 degrees Celsius and some of the ice melts. Assume that all the energy lost by the water is gained by the ice. What is the mass of ice that melts? Okay. We know that Q, which is given by water to the ice, is equal to Q, which is gained by ice from water. That's why we can say that MC delta theta for water equal to MLF for ice. This is latent heat of fusion for ice. So mass of water is 5. A specific heat capacity of water is 4.2 times change of temperature, 25 minus 0. Mass of ice which is melted is not given, times LF, which is 340. So based on this, if you calculate, M will be 1.54. If you round off, you will get 1.5 gram. So C will be right for question 20. 20. Question 21. The frequency of a wave is doubled. The speed of the wave doesn't change. What happens to the wavelength of the wave? We know that based on this formula, V equal to F lambda, the speed of the wave, it is said that a speed doesn't change. So this is V doesn't change. When frequency double, wavelength will be halved. That's why D will be right for question 21. Question 22, which shows the nature of the light waves, sound waves, and X-rays. We know that light waves and X-rays are electromagnetic radiation. And we know that all electromagnetic radiation are transverse wave. Moreover, sound waves are longitudinal. That's why C will be right. That's why C will be right. Question 23. The diagram shows light passing from air into glass. The glass has a refractive index of 1.5. What is the angle of refraction in the glass? Okay, we know that refractive index equal to sine I divided by sine R. This formula is true when a light comes from less dense to denser medium. So this formula is for less dense to denser medium. To denser medium. If light comes from denser medium to less dense medium, so formula will be 1 over n equal to sine I over sine R. So this is from denser to less dense. So from denser to less dense medium, you should use this formula. But in this question, it is from, as you can see, it is from less dense to denser medium. That's why you should use n equal to sine I over sine R. So n is 1.5. Sine I is incidence angle, so it is an angle between incidence ray and normal, which is 30, divided by sine R. If you do cross multiplication, you can find R. R will be 19 degrees. That's why question 23, A will be right. Question 24. Visible light has a frequency of approximately 5 times 10 to the power 14 Hertz. M and N are two other types of electromagnetic radiation. The frequency of M, the frequency of N is given. Which types of radiation are M and N? Okay, this is 5 times 10 to the power 14 Hertz, which is for visible light. So after and before a visible light, there are two frequencies which are given. So one of them is 5 times 10 to the power 15. It is very close to visible light, so you can guess what it is. And another one will be 5 times 10 to the power of 6 Hertz. So near visible light and higher frequency will be ultraviolet. That's why N will be ultraviolet. Based on this, only B will be right. So answer will be B. And 5 times 10 to the power 6 hertz, it is a very small frequency which is related to radio waves. Based on these things, you can choose B. Question 25. This is a converging lens, and you know that in converging lens there is only one condition, which image is virtual and it is in same side of object. When object is between focal point and lens, then image will be upright and virtual. And you know that this is used in magnifying glass. Okay, that's why image will be virtual and can be seen by an eye at Y. So D will be right. D will be right. Question 26. Which graph shows the result obtained? So this is for filament lamp. So you know that IV graph is a straight line for ohmic conductor. IV graph for semiconductor diode is like that. So this is for semiconductor diode. And C will be for thermistor. D and B will be wrong. That's why A will be right. So A is IV graph for filament lamp. Question 27. A resistor of resistance R is connected to a battery of EMF V. There is a current I in the resistor. Power P is dissipated by the resistor, and in time t, the energy transferred is E. Which expression is correct? Okay. We know that energy is power times time. What is power? Power is I times V. If you substitute P in this equation, you will get IVT, which is A will be right. So question 27, A is right. Question 28. A wire has a certain electrical resistance. The diameter and length of the wire may be changed. Which pair of changes must cause the resistance of the wire to increase? Okay. In this question, we know that R is rho L over A. R is resistance of a wire, rho is resistivity, L is length of the wire, and A is cross section. So if this is a wire, this is cross section, so this line will be diameter and this is length of the wire, and resistivity depends on material. So R is directly proportional to length of the wire and inversely proportional to cross section. We know that cross section will be pi r squared based on radius and based on diameter will be pi d square over 4. So that's why we can say that R also proportional to 1 over d square. So R is proportional to length and also proportional to, inversely proportional to a square of diameter of the cross section of the wire. That's why if you want to change, if you want to increase resistance of the wire, so length, which pair of changes must cause the resistance of the wire to increase? So length of the wire must increase because directly proportional, and diameter will be decrease because inversely proportional to resistance. That's why diameter will decrease and length must increase to increase resistance. Based on this, B will be right. So this is for length and this one for diameter, because to increase resistance, if you want to increase resistance, then diameter must decrease. If you want to increase resistance, length must increase according to this formula. Question 29. The 4 circuits shown all include an AC power supply, 2 diodes and a lamp. In which circuit is there a rectified current in the lamp? Rectified current means current can pass from one direction only. Current can pass from one direction only. So we can check A, B, C, D. You can see that current can pass from the diode and then pass from this diode and reach to the second end of the supply. For this one, current can pass from this direction but cannot pass from this direction. For this one, current cannot pass from the diode because diode is rectifier, and from end of the diode resistance is very high and current cannot pass. For this one, current can pass, but here current cannot pass from the diode. That's why A will be right. A will be right. In which circuit is there a rectified current in the lamp? A will be right. Question 30. P and Q are the circuit symbols for 2 electrical components. Which components are represented by P and Q? You know that P is thermistor and Q is fuse. That's why A will be right. Question 31. The diagram shows a combination of logic gates. Okay. Input P is at the logic state 0 and input Q is at the logic state 1. What are the logic states at output X and at output Y? Okay. For this question, we know that there are different logic gates and, or, NOR and NAND gate. I can write some of them for you so you can understand better. So input A, input B, and output, you can show it with output. So for example, in this figure there are a NAND gate. For NAND gate, if two inputs are 0, then output will be 1. If one of them 0, one of them 1, the output will be 1. And if both of them are 1, the answer will be 0. This is for NAND gate. For NOR gate and NAND gate, it is like that. For NOR gate, which is like that, here is curve, here is a straight. For NOR gate, input A, input B, and output. 1, 2, 3, 4. For NOR gate, if both of them is 0, the answer will be 1, and for others will be 0. So 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1 will be 0. So this is NOR gate. Now we solve this question. This is NOT gate. NOT gate means if input is 0, output will be 1. And also from Q we have 1 here. So 1 and 1 come to the NAND gate. You can see 1 and 1, and the result will be 0. So result will be 0 for output X. For NOR gate, so 0 also come here, and from input Q we have 1. So look at NOR gate, 1 and 0. The result will be 0. 1 and 0, the result will be 0. That's why result of output Y also will be 0. That's why A will be right. Question 32. In question 32, the diagram shows part of the circuit used to switch street lamps on and off automatically. In the evening, it gets dark, which shows the effect on the resistance of the light-dependent resistor, which is called LDR, and on the potential difference across it. Okay. When it gets dark, so for LDR, when it gets dark means less bright or less light. Less light means resistance increases. When resistance increases, when resistance of LDR increases, then the most portion of PD will reach to the LDR. That's why D will be right. Resistance of LDR increases, as I said before, and PD across LDR increases because I said the most portion of PD will reach to the LDR in series circuit. So D will be right. Question 33. The domestic circuit includes a 30 amp fuse. This protects the wiring if there is too much current in the circuit. In which wire is the 30 ohm fuse positioned, and what does it do when it operates? We know that circuit breaker, fuse, and switch, all of them must be in live wire. must be in live wire. Fuse and circuit breaker automatically cut the current, but switch is manually cut the current. So remember that switch cut the current manually, circuit breaker and fuse cut the current automatically. That's why question 33 A will be right. Question 34. A strong electromagnet is used to attract pins. What happens when the current in the coil is halved? When current decreases, magnetic field will decrease as well, which causes to decrease magnetic property. So magnetic property also will decrease. That's why no pin are attracted, it is wrong. More pins are attracted, wrong, because I said magnetic property will decrease when current will be halved. The same number of pins are attracted, wrong. Some pins are attracted but not as many. So B will be right. Because as I said, when current decreases, magnetic field around the coil will decrease, which causes to decrease magnetic property. Question 35. The diagram shows a transformer. What is the output voltage? We know that for transformer we have N1 over N2 equal to V1 over V2, or we can write NP over NS. It's better to write primary and secondary. So NP over NS equal to VP over VS. So primary terms is 800 divided by secondary is 40, and then input voltage is 240. Secondary voltage is not given. So if you do cross multiplication, you can find 12 volt. When voltage in secondary is less than voltage in primary, we can say that this is a step down transformer. So this is a step down transformer. So B is right in this question. Question 36. The diagram shows a shaded area where the direction of magnetic field is into the page. A beam of beta particles enters the field as shown. In which direction is the beam of beta particles deflected as they enter the magnetic field? Okay. We know that based on Fleming's right-hand rule or left-hand rule, I use right-hand rule, when beam is, for example, suppose this is a positive charge. When beam is to the right and magnetic field is into the page, then force will be upward. But in this question it is said beta particle. So beta particle means electron. So for electron you have to change 180 direction of force. So this is for force for positive charge and this is force for negative charge. So the answer will be down the page. Down the page. So C will be right. Question 37. A very important experiment increased scientists' understanding of the structure of matter. In the experiment, particles scatter as they passed through a thin metal foil. Which particles were used and to which conclusion did the experiment lead? So you know that this experiment is very important and famous, which is called alpha particle experiment or alpha scattering particles experiment. So that's why between A and B, you should choose one of them. And one of the results of alpha scattering experiment is atoms have a very small nucleus and the most space of the atom is empty. That's why B will be right. Question 37, B will be right. This is alpha scattering experiment results. Most space of atom is empty. Charge of nucleus is positive. All the positive charge and most of the mass of an atom form a dense core, which is called nucleus. So this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. 3 results of alpha scattering experiment. Question 38. Below are the symbols for 5 different nuclides. Which 2 nuclides are isotopes of the same element? We know that isotopes have the same proton numbers and different neutron numbers. Based on this, if you look at these 5 different nuclides, you can see that number 1 and number 2 are isotopes. That's why A will be right. Look at number 1, 3517, and nuclide 2, 3717. You can see that proton number are the same. And if you subtract 35 minus 17, it is 18. This is neutron number. 37 minus 17 equal to 20, which is neutron number. So they have different neutron number and same proton number. That's why A is right. Question 39. A radioactive decay can be represented as shown. So this is a equation. Pa 233 91 gives U 233 92 plus 1 particle. We don't know alpha, beta, or gamma. The equation is incomplete. In this decay, the nucleus changes by absorbing a neutron, proton, alpha particle, or emitting beta particle. Okay. If you look at atomic number, you can see here is 91, here is 92. So atomic number increased by 1. This happens for beta particle because beta particle atomic mass is -1, atomic number is -1, and atomic mass is 0. So if you use conservation of mass and energy, you can see that 233 equal 233 plus 0 for atomic mass, and for atomic number 91 equal to 92 plus -1, which is 91. That's why D will be right, emitting a beta particle. Question 40. The graph shows how the decay rate of a radioactive source changes with time. What will be the decay rate at 8 days? First of all, decay rate will be halved by 2 days based on figure. By 2 days, 4,000 decay rate become 2,000. So 2 days is time period. Oh, sorry, it is half-life. It is half-life. So half-life for this radioactive matter is 2 days. So what happened after 8 days? So we can say that use this 4,000, change to 2,000, 2,000 change to 1,000, 1,000 to 500, 500 to 250. So one half-life, one half-life, one half-life, one half-life. So each half-life is 2 days. So after 2 days, 4, 6, and 8 days. So after 8 days, decay rate will be 250. That's why C will be right. C will be right. So this is the last question of this past paper. I hope it was useful. Thank you and goodbye.